The most powerful functions in Excel is the Xlookup function. In addition to its power, it's got a lot of capability too, and not all of its features are that well known. It certainly is one of the most commonly used functions for lookup purposes, and it can take the place of VLOOKUP and HLOOKUP as well. We've got a list in columns A through G on this worksheet for about 700 rows or so. And what we need to do at different times is pull out the information from one employee or another. And there's certainly ways of doing this by way of a filter, but we like to do it for display purposes and sometimes for presentation purposes as well. So in cell J2, we've got a drop list here, and we can pick a name out of the list here. I've already chosen Douglas Ayers, and we see in row 13 his information is being highlighted. But we want to talk about how we can get this associated information here. And of course, we want to be able to do this for any person whose name appears in cell J2. So we'll use the Xlookup function. And every time you're typing this, remember equal XL tab. Makes it a lot faster and easier. What are we looking up? Douglas Ayers, comma. Where are we looking to find his name? Column A. Now this list is not a table, so all we need to do is click on column A. The list will grow or shrink, so this doesn't have to be adjusted, comma. When we find the information there, if we only wanted the department, we'd simply click column B. And many times when we are using Xlookup, we simply want to return information from a single column. I'll click column B, enter, we've got it. He's in logistics. We can see that down in cell B13. So fairly straightforward. But what if we also wanted the other information, the status, the hire date, and the other entries that we see in columns B through H? Instead of simply clicking on column B, let's just click and drag across columns B through G. Or a shorter list, maybe B through D. But in this case, we use all of them, and there they are, nicely aligned to the right. So we can do that with any name. Pick a different name here, pick one nearby so we can verify it quickly. Sandy Beard, right there. That's in row 9, and we can see that information clearly too. It's popping in properly and correctly. So that's easy to get to. But we could have the need of pulling in this same kind of information, but in a different order. So I'm going to take that formula and copy it here and then make some adjustments. Of course, we want to be referring to cell J2, and I'll make it refer back to Douglas Ayers first. So make it easier to see since it's already highlighted. So we're looking up the data from cell J2. And we do want to return the data from columns B through G, but not in this order. So we're about to use a function called choose calls. And we can put it surrounds column B colon G, B through G, or put it in front of the Xlookup function. And I think you'll have one preference over another if you try them both, but I'm going to put it in front of the function, choose calls. As soon as you see it in the list here, double click. It means choose columns. So we're going to be getting these columns here, B through G right here, 6 different columns, but we only want to choose certain ones and in a certain order. So after the Xlookup function, comma, we want to be picking up the status column. So as we're looking at columns B through G, status is the second column. So put in the number 2, comma, and then we want to get in department. That's the first column if we're looking at B through G only, comma, and then the hire date is in the third column, 3, comma, comp is in the 6th column, and then rating is in the 5th column. And we're not picking up the years at all, let's say. Right parenthesis, enter. And there's our list. And again, I'll use a function here called formula text to display the content of that formula. It's a handy function for providing documentation about formulas. There it is, choose calls. That's what we're doing in cell K6. So you can see how we can use choose calls along with Xlookup to return information from multiple columns. Now, there's another way to use this as well, too. In this case, we want a summary. So we've got a list here, and you can see the various people's names in column A, and we're tracking sales or profits is listed here for various years here. What we'd like to get is totals. I'm currently focused on George Babbitt here. Here too, we could try it with different names, but we want to get these totals here. Now, many of you know when you highlight cells like this, the status bar at the bottom of the screen, if you've got it active properly, is giving you the total. The total is 120. If that status bar, by the way, is not showing totals, right-click down there, check all 6 of these. They'll come in handy at different times. But we're going to be using a function right here, and it's already in place. Same general idea as before, except now we want to be adding up the entries that we're getting. So we use, naturally, the sum function. Xlookup here, we're looking up George Babbitt over in column A, and then returning all the data in columns C through H. Not column B, but C through H, and we're simply adding these up. And sure enough, if we can use sum, we can use average and median and so on. And actually, these are available to the right. I'm simply displaying the functions that are already in place here. So you can see how those are working. The last 3 years, we'd only want to add up the data from columns F, G, and H. So I think you can see the different ways we can use the Xlookup function to return information, not just from a single column, but from multiple columns. And as we saw in the previous examples in the other worksheet, we can choose them in the order that we want by combining Xlookup along with the choose calls function.